summer concert here.
Oh, really? Oh, great.
August.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever heard you, when you did Hallelujah, you were singing, I don't know the right terminology, very high key.
Yeah.
Weren't you?
Yes. I didn't have time to write it in a different key, but yes. Yes, I do sing
I'll show
opera.
my ignorance, okay.
No. Yeah.
That's a piece that's really been recorded a lot,
So true.
and very different arrangements.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Remember when, who was it they did at the Winter Olympics? What's her name? I can remember the scene. Joanne's my source of reference for all things.
For all things Leonard Cohen or all things in general.
I won't answer that question. You know the Kraft disease? Can't remember a nothing thing.
Got it. Okay.
These lunches have consistently good turnouts.
I know.
I mean, you should be
I'm
proud.
amazed.
You
I'm
should be-
very. Continue to come.
I think you got, you worked out the kinks. I don't think there were any, but.
All right. Thank you so much for making your way into the sanctuary, for being here with us, being together. It's great. Kevin, how do you say your last name? Vallely. Nailed it. Okay, I'm just going to take a moment to introduce our guest today. Kevin Vallely is a Vancouver-based architect, explorer, and fellow of the Royal Canadian Geographical Society. In 2009, he and two teammates set a world record for the fastest unsupported trek to the geographical South Pole, the geographic South Pole. Yes, amazing. In 2013, he attempted to row the Northwest Passage. Most recently, after previous failed attempts, he completed a ski expedition across Ellesmere Island in Canada's high Arctic, one of the most remote and unforgiving environments on Earth. So please join me in welcoming Kevin to speak with us this afternoon.
Thank you very much. And you got a taste of my world. I'm an explorer, adventurer, and I've been doing this for the better part of 25 years. And this journey to Ellesmere Island was the most testing journey that I've ever undertaken. It really was a journey defined by setback, by failure, by a challenge with cancer in the most unforgivably cold environment on the planet. But it was also about belief, and it was about collaboration and this determination to do something that was so difficult simply by choice. Now, let's get this thing started. Bear with me, folks. We're going to start this up again. There we go. So this, oh, jeez. All right. This is my teammate, Ray Zahab, and he and I were the ones who attempted this journey together. And as just mentioned, breaking the world record to the South Pole was with this guy. And Ray, back in 2007, made a movie with Matt Damon, in fact, a documentary, where he and two other fellows ran across the Sahara Desert, running 7,500 kilometers, running over a marathon and a half every day for 111 days in a row. So this is my teammate, and this is the guy who I have to keep up with on this adventure. But let's join. Here we are. This is the end of our expedition on Ellesmere Island. We're skiing into Grise Fjord here at the southern tip of Ellesmere after being out there for 28 days and dealing with so many setbacks and so many difficulties. And it took us 3 years to get to that point. Now, Anyone been to Ellesmere Island before? In this, wow, amazing. And it's really remote. And as you know, Ellesmere Island is in the Canadian high Arctic, and it is an incredibly remote place. In fact, no one lived there for thousands of years until in the 50s when the Canadian government decided they wanted, because of Arctic sovereignty, people to be living there. So they convinced, in quotes, 5 families from northern Quebec, Inuk families, to move there and say, yeah, there's great hunting. It's a brutal place, and unfortunately, they left, and the people were left there. But this is the environment. It is Canada at its rawest. In many respects, for someone standing on Ellesmere Island, the closest person to you will be someone in the space station above you. Now, Ellesmere Island for me intrigues me, and these are the things that intrigue me most. More people truly have walked on the moon than many places on Ellesmere Island. It's the size of Great Britain, yet there's only 150 people, less than 150 people living there. And there's Arctic wolves there. There's only 200 on the entire island, which is the size of Great Britain. But these wolves are unique species that have no fear of human beings at all. They've been allowed to develop for 10,000 years with any interaction with people, what makes them fearless to you. There's absolutely no fear at all with these wolves, and it was intriguing. We were hoping we'd actually get to see one. I mean, on an island that big, the chances were slim, but that was our hope in this environment. The sun doesn't rise for 4 months. It's so far north. So it gets really tough up there in the winter times, and temperatures drop down to minus 50 degrees Celsius in the winter, routinely in this environment. NASA uses it as training for their Mars mission. So this gives you a sense of what this place is all about. And this is what drew me to it, this kind of uniquely difficult environment. But we always get the question, ultimately, why? Why would you go to an environment like that? And really, as an adventurer, as an explorer, you want to go to the places that few people have had an opportunity to go to. But we wanted to go there in winter. You see, if you go to Ellesmere Island May, June, there's still lots of ice, and you can still do a ski traverse. But our objective was to do a ski traverse in winter, at the coldest time of year. And a lot of people questioned us on that. But it really came down to, if you want to go, many of us here may have gone to Death Valley before. If you go to Death Valley, you can go to Death Valley in December, and it's actually pretty nice. You get out of the car and you walk around, hey, it's not so bad. You want to understand why Death Valley is called Death Valley? You go there in the middle of July and step out of your car. That's Death Valley. It's plus 55 Celsius, and that's the magic of it, and that's the brutality of it, and this is the reality of Ellesmere Island for us. We wanted to go there in many ways when it was at its most Arctic and at its most raw. Giving you a sense of what it is, but also part of our objective on this journey was to share what we were doing out there with kids. We had over 10,000 school kids following us on this journey. So we could actually do these posts from the tent, and these kids are riveted by it, right? You're talking about geography, they're bored in a classroom, but suddenly when they hear the adventurer out there seeing this in that environment, they're intrigued by it, and it brings that reality to them. So that was our objective, and we were doing that through the Royal Canadian Geographic Society as well. Now, this expedition was very unique for us because it really was defined by failure. One failure after the other, setback after setback. And we came to learn that really failure stands for first attempt in learning. And that's what we believed in ourselves on that. Because the reality is that when you fail, often you just assume that the outcome of failure is associated with your identity. You know, like, oh, I couldn't do that. Therefore, well, maybe I just can't do that. And if you tell yourself that enough, it actually becomes reality. And that's why most people fail. So we were in many ways tested by this because we were pushed against back year after year these challenges, which now I'm going to share with you because this is what it was all about. It was all about setbacks. And our first attempt at this journey was in 2022. And here we were attempting to go from south to north. At this time, our only extraction point was from the north. We realized we were going to be into a headwind as we went, but this was our objective. Very difficult to get to Ellesmere Island, very, very costly, and very costly to leave it as well, and very challenging. And here we are, setting out with 300-pound sleds. Now, we had skied to the South Pole, and we had anticipated, South Pole, we were doing about 35 kilometers a day. When we did Lake Baikal, we broke the record on Lake Baikal in Siberia as well. We were averaging 55 kilometers a day. So we said, well, it's going to be tougher here. It's going to be a bit colder. So let's go with 20 kilometers a day. Seems kind of reasonable. Well, boy, that wasn't reasonable at all. We were averaging 10 kilometers a day, hauling those massive sleds. And the only way I can describe it is pulling a sled like that is like taking a fridge, because that's roughly what it weighs, and harnessing yourself and start dragging it on pavement. It quite honestly feels that hard as you move. So it's exhausting. And the reality is there's not a lot of snow either there as well, as you can see. There was lots of sections of gravel. So things were sort of kind of falling apart early on for us. We realized this is going a lot slower than we anticipated, about half the speed, in fact. We had 50 days of food. Well, we'd need 100 days of food. We got to pick up our pace. How are we going to do this? So it was a real conundrum at this point. But for the first part of the expedition, we had snow machines with us, snowmobiles, and from local guys who were actually helping us film part of that journey. So they were out there, and they'd be with us for the first week and a half, 2 weeks. And we thought, well, you know, what we're going to do here, instead of be fully unsupported, we're going to take our gear and we're going to hand it over to the snowmobile guys. And they can help us, and this will speed us up. And right away, we started to feel, the wheels are starting to fall off this one as we went. And then, next thing that I suffered with was something called caribou lung. And when you're breathing in really cold temperatures, minus 40, minus 50, you get caribou lung potentially. And what was happening for me was I was literally coughing up blood. And what it's doing is it's scorching the lining of your esophagus. Like, this is a really, really tough environment when you're out there. So I was able to actually navigate this through a special little device that I put on my face, where it's like, for any architects in the room or anyone understanding it with home renovations, an HRV system, a heat recovery ventilator. Well, this is what this is that you breathe in minus 50-degree air, but actually it mixes with the breathing air that you're breathing out, and the air that you end up breathing in is 15 degrees Celsius and has moisture in it. So it works like magic, thank God for me. And I solved that one problem. But now we had another problem. The machines that were actually carrying our gear were starting to break down. With this environment, and look at the machines they were dealing with here, terribly, terrible quality. And we realized at this point that after day 10, we had one point where we'd given the guys all our gear. We said, we're just going to ski ahead. We're just going to get ahead of you guys, and you can catch up with us, obviously, on the machines. And we skied the entire day. We skied 25 kilometers. And I remember it was getting kind of late. It was 3 in the afternoon. Sun was going down. We were seeing a lot of polar bear tracks. We saw a couple of wolves. And we had nothing with us except a gun and a small backpack, and realized we can't survive out here. Maybe the machines actually didn't work. And now we're stuck here without a tent. So we realized we can't do this. So we turned around, we started to ski back, and after about an hour, we heard the drone of the machines coming, and they finally got the machines to work. And we said, we can't do that again. We're never going to do that again. The next morning, we're going to wait till the machines are running, then we're going to start going until we don't need the machines anymore. And next morning, machines wouldn't work, and it took till 2 in the afternoon until they got it going. And we realized at that point, we couldn't do it. We'd have to pull the plug. And it was a difficult motion. We had been preparing at this point for several years for this particular first kick at it. And it was a very, very difficult moment, as you can see by this video.
Not doing it, dude. I'm not doing good. We're not doing good. The snow machines are broke down again. I apologize for being so emotional, but it's been such a difficult journey just for us to get here, you know. And even this first part, we've taken a physical ticking just to get to where we're at, as you can see on the tracker, and we're just being exhausted. These snow machines, you know, they're taped together. You're not, and it's just been a nightmare. It's been a nightmare. We'll come back. It's here for sure. So.
It's a raw emotion at that point, but we made the call, and it was a hard call because this is a lot of people were following on this, and a lot of people didn't think we were going to succeed. And unfortunately, here we are backing out and saying we're going to pause this thing. But everyone saw it as quitting, of course, and all the online trolls started to do their thing, and we were saying, who are these guys? They're jokers, and on, going, they can't do this. No one can do this in wintertime. And it just sort of built more resolve for us, hearing all that, knowing we were going to come back and determined to do so. But I'll tell you, it was a really hard moment stepping back like that, because every other time we'd done a journey like this, it had worked out. But this time, it certainly wasn't. But the following year, we're ready to go. It's 2023. We're preparing, and I get a call from Ray saying, Kev, I got cancer. And he has a blood cancer. And he has to go through 6 rounds of chemo and monoclonal therapy. And expedition's over, obviously, in my mind. But he's determined. We're going to do this thing. And I'm going to get through this darn thing, and then we're going to do it next year. And it's amazing when you hear that, because it sort of increases my resolve to get this thing done, certainly seeing this. And he did do that. And you discover that real courage is not loud bravado, pounding your chest. It's quiet persistence. And this is really what it was all about. So the following year, we were determined, boy, and we were training hard. I was hauling a tire down the demonstration forest road in Lynn Valley, trying to mimic skiing, while Ray was running across Death Valley, as he does, because he's a crazy runner. But we were physically ready for this thing. And we were 2 weeks out from heading north when our airline sponsor pulled out and left us $62,000 in the lurch, and we're grounded. So here we were again. We're 2 weeks out, and really the normal person at this point would just say, I'm done with this. That we've tried, we've given it our best. But they say resilience is something that you only discover you have when you're actually up against challenge. And you actually build resilience the more challenge you face. And I guess we were facing so many challenges at this point that our resilience was really becoming quite strong. And it's an interesting thing about resilience. They say the resilience is as important, if not more important, than IQ for future success. It's a critical component of what we have. And it's certainly something that was testing us out here. And I think in the end, we proved that we had resilience because we decided to come back in 2025. And it's one of these things, we finally made it. We were finally ready, and it all aligned. And I remember sitting in that tiny plane heading into Grise Fiord, the most remote, most northern community in Canada, thinking to myself, you've got to be careful what you wish for sometimes. Here we are heading into the coldest, wildest place, undertaking a major expedition, which was going to be really, really hard. And I don't think we shared a single word on this flight into Greece. But this is the tiny little, in quotes, hotel in Greece. It's sort of a house, I suppose, and where we threw all our gear getting ready. And imagine all that gear has to go into 2 sleds. It's chaos in the beginning of a journey like this, pulling it all together. But this is the reality, and this is the experience, I suppose, in knowing that we can actually do that. And also creating for food. The thing is, you need massive amounts of food in this environment. And we had this unique idea of putting olive oil in everything we have to bump up the calories, a fairly healthy oil. And what we did was, it's so cold there, we just poured them into ice cube trays, put them outside, and 10 minutes later, presto, we had these nice little circular balls of olive oil that we could eat, we could throw in our coffee, we could throw in our meals, we could throw in everything. And this was it. This is the amount of food we had on this journey. And you see, as a quick calculation, as you can see, I sort of figured I'd tally it up to get a sense of what we eat on a diet like this, but in terms of the calories. But the overall final caloric intake on any given day is 8,200 calories. That's a lot of food, right? And the interesting thing is, I still lost 10 pounds. So it's the ultimate Jenny Craig diet, but there is a caveat. You have to go to Ellesmere Island. And now the fact of this matter is, this environment is dangerous. There's a lot of critters out there that want to eat you. And the only thing that can deter a polar bear is a gun. And this is something we have to take 2 of. And it's funny because in the north, it's the only place where if an RCMP officer comes up to you and asks you if you're carrying a gun and you say yes, they're visibly relieved. This is the reality of the north. They want you to be carrying weapons because of your own personal safety. And it was funny because we were in that crazy room and we had our guns laid out and bullets and everything. We're just getting everything ready and knock on the door, and in come the 2 RCMP officers of the town. And we're like, oh, crap. Sorry, guys, we got the guns out, and normally it's supposed to be in a special case and everything else. And they're like, don't worry. Nicest guys. But they went and hear our itinerary, and we're asking them why. And they said, well, it's for not so much rescue, but body retrieval, to be honest with you, to be able to tell your families. And they were being really cold about it and honest about it. But in the end, fair enough, because what we were doing was going to be a dangerous thing. But the thing is that one of the guys, Ted, became a real, he followed us every day. We were actually calling into him every day. He was giving us weather reports. Most helpful guy could have ever been. But this is the reality of travel up north. And of course, teammates, we were going to get to the start by snowmobile. And we have teammates in the community, Terry Noah and his 2 colleagues, that were going to help us. And it's amazing to see these young guys surviving and thriving in that environment, because here we were trying to test ourselves in it. But this is home for them. This is where they live. And this is where they do everything. And it's amazing what we could learn from these young guys in this environment. Now, our journey was 2 expeditions. We were actually starting in Greece, and we were going to take a snowmobile for 500 kilometers with Terry and team all the way up to the Eureka weather station. And then we were going to begin our ski journey and turn and come back the whole way back. And the interesting thing about that snowmobile journey, no one travels at that time of year by snowmobile. It's too cold. So here we were, probably for our start, to get to the start, undertaking arguably probably the coldest snowmobile journey ever undertaken, and seeing whether these machines could even be function in that environment. But we were sponsored by BRP, the Skidoo company, and they wanted to test the machines and see if this was going to be a possibility. And then boots hit the rubber, as they say, or I guess skis hit the snow, as the case may be, and the journey begins. And we're packing up here, getting the Comatux ready and behind the snowmobiles, and we're going to venture north. And reality sits in really, really quick. It's like, oh man, here we go. This is becoming real. And I remember talking to some kids once about my South Pole expedition at a school, and one of the girls stood up and said, "Sir, I think you're exaggerating, because I can see you're barehanded in that photo, and clearly it can't be that cold." Well, it's minus 45 degrees here, and Ray's barehanded. And this is the reality, is that you have to use bare hands sometimes. That's the tricky part of this environment. You can't be using big mitts to tie stuff up. So you need to go barehanded for a few seconds. Try to do it quickly before you get frostbite, and then actually back into the gloves again. So this is the reality, and we're getting a taste for it at this point. But the journey was in many ways good, because it was going to get us used to the cold before we started the really, really hard part. But out there, I remember on that first day thinking to myself, you get this imposter syndrome. Like, who am I to be doing this? Like, no one's done this before, this testing journey. Who am I? And you begin to question yourself, and you got to be careful about that, right? And I remember rethinking, it's like, no, we got everything ready. We got the best people around it, best teammate. I've experienced for years snowmobiles that are going to work this time, and you're telling yourself this. But it's very important to do that, because neuroscience, like the science says, that the more you tell yourself, I can't do something, the more likely you won't be able to. If you say you can something, it's actually your brain rewires itself to believe it. And it's one of those things you got to tell yourself, within reason, obviously, but give yourself that mantra that I can actually do it. And that's why we had to say that a lot, I'll be honest with you, on this journey north. Now, as I said, probably the coldest snowmobile journey ever, and it really felt it, because if it's minus 40, minus 50, and you're on a machine that's moving at 70 kilometers an hour, you can only imagine what the wind chills are in that environment. Steep terrain up and over glaciers, hauling all machines together, trying to haul heavy things over those. But this is an environment that is very unforgiving. Nothing really can survive out there. If anything goes wrong, you perish in this environment. Up on Eureka Sound, this is the deep cold. And this is why we wanted to travel there in winter. Like, this light was for about 7 hours a day. This purples and pinks, it was surreal. And Eureka Sound is called Polar Bear Alley for, I guess, obvious reasons. There's a lot of polar bears. But this was what we wanted to experience on Ellesmere. The deep cold and the beauty of it is really utterly unique in this time of year. But the machines, of course, were breaking down, as they would. But the thing is, our young guys were so experienced, they knew what to do. So, I mean, BRP probably wasn't thrilled to hear about this, but you pour boiling water into the starter motor to get it going. And then you take a Coleman stove and you put it underneath the engine block to actually heat it up. And sure enough, they get the machines going in the mornings. Amazing. Really, really, this experience. And experience is strategy at times, right? And that's really what it comes down to. Now, this young guy, Silas, we were on a different machine, Ray and I was traveling with this young guy, Silas, from the community, and we got to know one another really well. And he was maybe 22, 23, and I just turned 60. And I remember asking him finally at one point, going, do you think I'm up for this? As a 60-year-old, do you think I'm really able to do this? And I remember he went all quiet for a while, and then he just said, well, you don't move like a 60-year-old, which made me feel good, sort of. But the thing about Silas was that tough guy and grew up in this environment, but it was interesting, on that snowmobile, on Eureka Sound, in the deep cold, traveling, and we had fallen behind, there was some issue, we had to stop with the Comitalk, and we fell behind the other two guys, and we're hammering after them super fast, really cold. And I finally remember him just going, stopping the machine, and I'm sitting behind him wondering what's up. I'm all bundled up, he's all bundled up, I can just see his eyes. And he looks at me and he has this crazy look in his eyes. And he gets up and he just gets off the machine and just starts to run. I'm like, crap. And I'm looking around expecting a bear to be charging upon us. Nothing. He just runs. And he runs, and he runs, and he runs. And he does this huge circle, comes back and keeps doing it. And finally he comes up to me, breathing, and says, I'm freezing. I need to warm up. And it dawned on me how on the edge we were. And the other guys, by this point, figured out something was happening and came back. When he's complaining, he's on the edge. Immediately set up tent, getting hot liquids in him. But you realize that environment. This is a young guy, a Nook, who's grown up in Grise Fjord. So it's cold when someone from there is suffering like that. And we knew this too in our last camp, recognizing it, and you can see this photo here, knowing that within a couple of days we're going to be leaving our machines behind. And then we're going to be heading out on skis, totally alone, ourselves, without the sort of the pseudo support you have with machines and everything else associated with it, because it is a little bit easier, a little bit safer, obviously, with the machines. And when we got to Eureka, the weather station there, fascinating place. It's been run since 1947, so 80 years, essentially. This has been going nonstop, taking climate science and everything else for 80 years. And it's funny how they have this little postal sign. It's a joke, because there's 8 people there, and you meet them, and they come to you, you shake their hand, they tell you their name, and when they arrived, and when they're leaving. It's honestly like there's penance, they're in jail, because they're there completely remote. And signs are up, polar bears, the wolves, be careful as you go. And it's funny because we're dawning on us, well, we're going to be living in this environment for the next month, just Ray and I. But here we were finally getting there by snowmobile with our team. We made it, and now the real journey begins for us by ski. And Nolan, the other young guy on the team, I remember he came up to us just before we left, gave me a big bear hug. I said, you'll be good, man. And I was like, right on. And then about 5 minutes later, he came up to me and gave me another big bear hug. I was like, well, okay, cool, we're good. And I found out later from his mom in Greece that he didn't think we were going to make it. He really thought we were going to die out there. So he was like, it was really caring because we'd become their friends. And good thing I didn't know that at that time, I suppose. But we started off heading off, and there it was. We're carrying everything with us. And then, whoop, actually, I'm going to pause that and lead into this for a sec. That jumped too fast. But we have everything in our sleds here. We're fully committed in this environment. And for the first day, we figured, well, we're just going to go 4 hours. And then we're going to set camp and sort of digest where we are and what we're doing. And within 4 hours, we set camp, and this happened.
Do we need to be worried?
Don't know.
There's one up there too. Wolves are walking into our camp. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Shit, they're huge, dude.
Oh, shit.
Do we need to, should I get my gun?
Well, you can have it ready if you want. Well, sure, it's fine.
These wolves just walked into our camp. I mean, they're huge. Huge wolves. There's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You are incredibly beautiful. But scary, because you're huge. The paws are literally as big as our hands.
This is insanely,
I can't believe it. They're just kind of like cruising by.
They're clearly not scared of us.
And we should be scared of them. I'm just kidding.
But here we were, there's 200 wolves in all of Ellesmere Island, and we just have a pack of 10 walking in on us on camp. And we'd heard they're not aggressive, but you can hear all you want. But suddenly you're out there, there's no one around, and there's a pack of 10. And these hunt muskox. Muskox are 800-pound horned beasts. So if they want you, they're going to have you. But they chose to just be curious. And the fascinating thing is that one that's coming in close, he's the sentry. And the alphas, that's not the alpha. The alpha is further back, actually, keeping the pace, keeping them moving. But they're all keying off the sentry, because if the sentry is laid back, they're laid back. If the sentry gets aggressive, they get aggressive. So it all depends on that one. And he's checking you out, and he doesn't look you in the eyes. He looks through you. Not to say, I'm just checking you out. And it was an absolutely amazing feeling, but we didn't feel threatened. We can sense by their body language that they weren't being predatory on us. But this is the reality of this environment, is fear, right? And how do you overcome that? And what I've discovered with this is fear is real, and it's always there. And this misconception is adventurers don't feel fear like everyone else does. They do. Just what we've got, I suppose, better at is being able to function anyway and be able to take that first step. And that's truly what we did as we were heading out. And it was just a short time after this, crossing over the land there from Eureka. That's where we ran into the wolves. We were going to be heading out into Eureka Sound. So we were going to go from one place, which we knew where the wolves were, into another place, which we knew where the polar bears were going to be. And here we were heading down into Eureka Sound.
And it is a cold one today.
It's cold out there, and when you're in that environment, check out the size of my hand, and that's the polar bear paw. It gives you a sense of the size of these beasts in that environment. And we were running into tracks continuously, knowing they were out there, and this is what you would be faced with. And they're amazing predators. And one of the elders in the community was saying to me, when they hunt seal, very often they lie flat and they sort of push themselves along towards the seal, but they have the wherewithal to know that the only thing you see on a bear that's not white is its nose. It's black. So what they do as they're sliding towards the seal is they put their paw in front of their nose, which was really disturbing to me because that's how smart they are, or they're intuitive. That's how good they hunt. And these creatures, well, if they were going to come and get you, you got to be really prepared for that. So that's why we had discipline. You can see this. So that's what we're faced at when we come into camp, and very often. And I tell you, when it's minus 45 and you have wind like that, well, the temperatures are insane. And I designed a polar bear fence that I was going to encircle the camp with. And every night I'd have to set it up. And a polar bear fence requires you tying literally fishing line to these things and have a shotgun shell in there, ever so delicately placed, and then you run that line in that wind to another one, and you do this all the way around the camp. It takes about 45 minutes. And you honestly get frostbite. I got frostbite on 2 fingers doing it because you have to go barehanded in those conditions, and you have no choice. But it's one of those things you have to be disciplined, because it'd be very easy to get to camp and go, I'm just not up for that today. Let's just get in camp. No bears will come. Well, that's when the bears will come. You just know it. You just have to do what you have to do in that environment to survive. And that is, again, the experience. And experience is strategy, I feel, in these environments. It was interesting because I talk about this hardship, and in many ways it was hardship. I remember having a dream, actually, at one point there in the first week lying in camp. We'd get into camp. Before we'd make food, we'd just kind of fall asleep for a little bit and then sort of get going. And I suddenly drifted off, and I was back home in Lynn Valley, and I was playing with my dog, and everything was great, and I was warm. Then I woke up, and it was like the opposite of a nightmare. Like, I was in the nightmare, I was living the nightmare, and I was like, oh my God, I was just in my dream. What have I done? But the fact is that we had chosen to be there, and we wanted to be, and we knew we were going to be getting into this and how difficult it was truly going to be in the end. But that's the magic. And you're traveling in this terrain, you get into a routine. After a couple of weeks, this becomes the new normal for you. As you travel, you just move all day, and you have to move all day. You can't stop. You really can't stop for any length of time. Maybe 5 minutes, 3 minutes, make a quick adjustment. But your food is against you, trying to warm it up so you can eat it. And water, you tend not to drink much. And it's interesting. People are intrigued by that we drank about, I'd say, half a cup of water a day. For 8 hours to 10 hours of exercise. We drink a lot later on, but you're not thirsty, and you just keep moving. You don't drink, and with same thing in the South Pole, you just never seem to really drink much water. And that, I popped ahead there. But as you saw that by that previous slide, was the magic of that environment, with the sun dogs and everything else. And as you're moving forward, what you do is, the person in front is always scanning the horizon, looking obviously for bears and predators. And the person behind following, what your job is to do every 5 or 10 minutes is to stop and turn around. Because polar bears come in from behind, and you're always watching. And it's funny how after a while this becomes the new normal. You get kind of relaxed. This is the way you're living. In the first few days, it's petrifying, and then it becomes the new normal in that environment. Now, as we traversed here, we started to run into more and more wolves. That's actually a wolf track from a pack that we were following, quite fresh. But we kept having these circumstances where wolves were coming down on our camp as we're setting up camp, and freaking me out. I mean, at one point, I remember I was just setting up the final things into camp, and I stood up, and there was a pack of them around me. They'd somehow come down upon me, and they were checking me out. And they were just curious, one after the other. We ended up seeing 31 of the 200. And it was a conscious effort because we decided to travel not on the sea ice all the time, but inland. And we knew inland had much better opportunity to see things. Much harder to travel inland because it's mountainous and so forth. But still, this was our objective. And these creatures are amazing. And they're saying there's dens they've been using for the last 1,000 years. They haven't interacted with people for 10,000 years. So they have no fear of you at all. They're just more curious. And these packs had never seen people before. So they didn't even know what we were. But they're quite a unique species. Their snouts are a little smaller. The ears are a little smaller. Everything about them is unique to them. But they've never been hunted, so they have no fear of people. Now, the Svensson Peninsula that we crossed over reminded me in many ways like Antarctica, like going to the South Pole. You're up into this high plain of just snow and glacier as you're traveling across it. And it's a really, really magical place. But in many ways, truly, more people have stood in the moon than have stood there. No one travels there. No one. And it really felt like this unique opportunity that we were able to go somewhere. And that's why you explore. That's why you go to these places, to see something probably no one else has seen. So that's one of the sort of magical components of this. And as you're out there, you saw as it goes, sometimes you see the ground where it's been scoured from the wind. And whenever you see scoured ground, you know what you're going to run into, and close by would be muskox. Because this is their ability to feed and scavenge on the rocks and everything else. And we've ran into this herd. And the unique thing, the herds of muskox, is they run away, then they stop, and they look at you. And they form a rosette, and they protect themselves. And in behind all those heads there are the little guys. The calves stay in behind them. And if you get too close, they come 800 pounds with horns, comes charging out at you. So you don't get too close. But these are amazing creatures because they're 90,000 years, for the last 90,000 years, they haven't changed. They've been around with the woolly mammoths and with saber-toothed tigers. So they're very successful. Their fur is 8 times warmer than cotton. So they're really quite an amazing creature. But what a tough gig, really. You're out there, eating that, whatever they can, like rock tripe, and basically everything out there wants to eat you. So not the best thing to come back as a muskox. But for us, for Ray and I, we're out there alone, and ultimately it came down to collaboration and trust, because for you do anything like this, you got to trust the other person with your life. Truthfully, you do, because we're out there. That's the only person you got, and it's very hard to find a teammate that works that way. We each have our sort of idiosyncrasies and unique aspects that we drive each other crazy at times, but nonetheless, we can get along. We can actually survive through these things, and this gives you a sense of our environment in camp. Ray's not on the phone per se. He's actually connecting with school kids to a sat phone through his device. And we have everything there to survive, really. And we have to cook inside the tent because you can't cook outside. So everything is done there. You got to be super careful, obviously, as you do. And you can see here, too, I have my gun right beside me because at any time, a bear could jump on the tent. It's always in the back of your mind there. And our sled itself, everything contained in this sled, from solar panels to clothes, Starlink, we were connecting with the kids to, obviously, again, ready to have as we could, fuel, you name it, all in that one sled as we're hauling it. Everything. We pack up in the morning, and we got our entire life in our hands as we go. So as we were traveling, went over the Svensson Peninsula, and then we got to a really amazing point. We got to this spot that we actually had to turn around 3 years earlier. And this was a very cool place to get there, going in the other direction when we were doing it. We were getting this thing done. We made a small video of that.
Hey everyone, we are in the spot where 3 years ago we had to end our expedition and therefore our dream of crossing Ellesmere. And it's pretty amazing to be here together after 21 days. Took us
21, 22 right now.
I mean,
pretty
check
darn
this out.
satisfying, boy. This spot for us 3 years ago was a real kind of, it was a disappointing moment. We had to pause everything and sort of restart and rethink. And, some people treated this as some sort of failure. We knew it wasn't. It was just a setback. But nonetheless, incredibly satisfying to come back at this point and just be here. And we feel like we're achieving our dreams. So.
Yeah. Lots happened in the last 2 years. We're here. And we're smiling. You just can't see it. Because Kevin's got a mask on for his breathing, and I have a beard.
We're happy to be out here.
Over and out.
We were feeling pretty good. And I keep saying it, but experience is strategy. And it was an interesting one because we were questioning ourselves. I mean, I was 60 and Ray was 57. And we're like, are we too old for this? We've been doing this a long time. Are we really up for this thing? And there was something in the back of our minds, and certain people were questioning us as well. But in the end, experience is strategy. And we realized that as our younger selves, we couldn't have done this. There's no way. There was too many really challenging things out there where we would have either gone too hard or done something stupid and really put ourselves in jeopardy. So those years of experience helped us through to do something that we couldn't have done otherwise. And it was a really important thing to learn when you're on something like that. And experience is strategy. It's something I keep saying over and over because I believe it so strongly. Now, when we're coming in, this is the final corner before we come around another maybe 15 or 20K into Grise Fjord. And I remember this feeling like, wow, we got this thing done. And the day before this, we were getting close to the community, and we heard the revving of a machine coming into us. We were setting camp, and this guy from the community, and he's in full furs and just badass guy, kind of walks up, I get out of the tent, and he just grabs my hand and goes, "You're alive." And he says, "We've been following you guys in the community." And they were so stoked and they were so into it. And it was so awesome to hear that that a guy like that and the community members were following, and they were really inspired what we were doing. That really inspired us because they recognized exactly the challenge we had put to ourselves. I'm going to give you I hauled a drone across this journey with me, which was, you don't want to be calling these things unless you use them. And I'd be putting this thing up occasionally to get a feel for the environment. So I'm going to share that with you now. When we got finally into Grise Fjord, it was this feeling of like, it wasn't a triumphant thing. It was just like a relief in many ways. But there was one thing that really dawned on me, and the more I thought about it, was the reason we succeeded on this journey that took so many years to do. And it's your own personal journey, right? Like, it's crazy as it is, but this is our journey, and we really wanted to do it. And it was belief, really, truly, that's belief. We believe in ourselves, and that failure was that first attempt in learning. And we weren't going to be set back. We were going to keep moving forward regardless. Another thing was belief that, fear loses its power the second you take that first step. And ultimately, belief that age wasn't a liability, because it wasn't in any way. It really allowed us to get through this thing. So with that, folks, I want to thank you for your time. Hope you enjoyed that. Yeah, you bet. And there could be questions if you have them.
Is on? Yes, it is. Hi. Well, thank you so much. That was so inspiring. I think everyone can agree, and just amazing that you're, a local and you went and did this incredible adventure. And I mean, I know I have so many questions about the details and what made you want to do it and all of these things, but I'll open it up for a few questions. But yeah, thank you so much.
You bet. Thank you.
Okay, we'll start. Wait, who had their hands up?
So what are you going to do for an encore?
Encore. Hey, I was waiting for that one, boy. Here we are. We're next month, actually, end of July, we're heading to the Arctic, and we're going on a kayak journey around an island called King William Island. And King William Island is the epicenter of Franklin's doomed expedition. And we're doing a journey which truly will be amazing. Let's see if this clicks on through. Yeah, there we are. Perfect. Around King William Island. Actually, up here is where the Erebus and Terror, the two ships, were stuck in the sea ice, if you've heard that story, and ultimately were found. And I've been up there before in the past, and it's very raw. And there's still things that haven't been discovered. So we're doing a full circumnavigation. No one's ever done that before, from my understanding. But we're also doing it in tandem with the ground search team, with this guy, Tom Gross, whose daughter is the ex-deputy premier of Nunavut, like a really serious guy. And he's been going up there for 30 years and doing ground surveys. So we're doing probably the most thorough search ever for the Franklin expedition, which has always been intriguing to me. So that's what the encore is.
Wow. Who's up next? Okay. Andrew.
Yeah, I was wondering, have you ever considered using dogs for the expedition?
Well, actually, I didn't get into it, but we were thinking seriously about doing that. In fact, after our first failure, we were thinking, maybe we'll do it by dogs. And the logistics of that were so challenging that we finally abandoned it. We had mushers who we were connected with in the communities, but suddenly you're hauling all the food for the dogs. You've got to be careful how much you can actually run the dogs, because you've got to be careful for the dogs themselves. And in the end, it just logistically wasn't going to work. So we said that let's just go back to what the tried and true, what we're used to, and we skiing it. But yeah, we gave it serious thought for about 8 months, actually. Yeah.
How do you finance an expedition like this?
Yeah, good question. And that's the real expedition when it comes down to it. Man, it's a lot of work. We got BRP, became our main sponsor. BRP Skidoo, and they were thrilled in the idea that they can facilitate the journey. So we got these machines from BRP. They sent 3 up a year before, all the gear, helmets, clothing, and actually gave us money as well. Amazing company. And in the end, what we did was we donated those machines to the community in the end. So it felt good too, but it's hard, boy. Every expedition, that's the hardest part, often getting sponsors.
We'll go to Barry, and then we'll go over here.
You were gone for 20-odd days?
28 days skiing, and it was 8 days actually going up on the snowmobiles, yeah.
Were you ever restocked during the trip?
What was that?
Were you ever restocked with supplies?
We actually dropped 2 points on the way. And that was the nice thing, being able to go up by snowmobile. We were able to put it as we could. We could have hauled everything. It would just been more difficult. And in the end, we didn't care. We wanted to do the traverse. So it was a good opportunity. But we had to be very strategic on our drops as well. With food and fuel were two things we would drop. And because the wolves and the bears would get into it. So you have to be really strategic on where you place them. But we had 2 drops as we went. Yeah.
And one more, you are obviously using electricity for the phones and nothing else.
Yeah.
Was there enough light to charge your batteries?
No, we had to be really careful with batteries. And we had our batteries with us. Towards the end, there was enough light to get a little charge into phones, but that was it. Like, for example, the batteries for that drone, I hauled the batteries for the drone for the entire thing. And again, real cold, so those batteries lose a lot of life as it goes. But the lithium-ion batteries are pretty good in the extreme cold, but yeah.
I want to ask you about your eyes. There was a picture where your eyes were a bit red, and so, but how do you manage?
Well, yeah, the problem with goggles is that they fog up instantly. No matter what you do, you can't use goggles. You have to use sunglasses. But even sunglasses fog up because it's so cold. Any breathing just freezes instantly. So you sort of turning them on edge. But towards the end, it got really hard because it was still brutally cold. So you were putting them on, but you couldn't see anything as you were going. So you take them off, and then your eyes would start getting burned. That's why, traditionally, the Inuit have the slits, like this piece of bone. That would have been the perfect thing, because you only need a little bit of light, and you wouldn't have to deal with all these hassles. So it's amazing what it goes back to. And same with the clothing and everything else that the Inuit use, is that I threw on a sealskin anorak years before once, and it was way warmer than my big Canada Goose jacket. Like, the people up there, they're harvesting animals off the land, eating, but also using it for clothing, and it's the best. They know what works.
I noted that sometimes you skied and sometimes I think you used snowshoes. It didn't seem that it was a lot of deep snow. So what was the difference?
We were walking, Ray more so than me. I usually stayed in skis. I feel much more comfortable on skis, and he's the guy who ran across South America, across the Sahara, so he's more happy on foot sometimes. But yeah, we mixed back. We didn't have snowshoes. We just go with boots on ground with crampons, like a thin rubberized crampon, and that worked. And it worked pretty good. You go a little bit slower, but the nice thing about skiing is that instead of lifting and doing that, you just have to push forward. And it's just a little bit easier on the body, but when you're doing that 8-10 hours a day for 30 days or whatever, it adds up after a while. It's important. I think there was one down here.
Your guidance system, did you use it? What kind of a compass?
Well, a GPS, an InReach, and we had backup systems as well, and we did have maps too, that we kind of knew where, and enough that I can read a map to kind of work it as well, but multiple backup systems, but typically an InReach, finding where we were, that little sort of InReach device, GPS.
Did you have any problems with the Starlink?
No, interestingly, no. The Starlink worked so well. It's crazy. At one point, the Starlink was working as if we were here. That's how good the internet was. And we're in the middle of nowhere. And in the communities themselves, all those communities have gone over to Starlink. Where it cost a fortune before, now it hardly costs them anything. So the Starlink is, as much as I don't like Elon Musk in many ways, it's a brilliant device, yeah.
Wow. Estelle, yeah.
In your photos that you took with the drone, it looked like there was a plowed field or something. Did you?
It would have just been by wind. There was nothing else out there. Yeah. When it was with the muskox, was it that?
No. Before that, it almost looked like a geometric design.
Huh.
And I thought maybe it was a plowed field or something.
That would have been by the wind. And it's amazing the formations that are formed by the wind out there. But no, there's nothing out there. Nothing at all.
They don't farm in the summer.
No farming. And that would have been probably the sea ice. And actually, I think there's one question over there. The sea ice, sometimes it's hard to tell whether you're on sea ice or land, right? Because everything is just frozen solid. And getting into Eureka, it's right way up north where we started, is 50-50 of the year. They try to get a ship in there. They try to get it in to get in goods, but very often they can't get in there because it stays frozen. So it's cold. It's still Arctic, boy. Yeah.
You might have already said this, but what were your dates that you went on this?
We started heading up in early March by snow machine, and we started getting going just before mid-March, and then we went in till April, whatever it is, 28 days after that. So we drifted from winter into spring, though, to be honest with you, there was really no change in the temperature. It actually stayed, it only went above -30 on the 25th day. I remember, finally, it went above -30 as ambient temperature. And it got to a point, at one point, it was -17. And I remember I stripped down to just my underwear. I was -17, like just underwear top going on, and I was overheating. So your body adapts so quickly that -17 without wind felt rather balmy, to be honest with you. It's crazy. And I'd be freezing right now, even at the thought of -2.
And you have an association with the National Geographic.
Not so much Nat Geo, but very much RCGS, the Royal Canadian Geographical Society. I'm also a fellow for the Explorers Club that are more connected with that. But I'm much more raw Canada these days, and it's RCGS. But I'm all about.
So, are you taking all your expeditions, and you said you're dealing with students and stuff? Were you a teacher? Were you?
No, that's through Ray's Foundation and connecting with the kids and through our CGS. And it became that we create a school curriculum afterwards that the teachers can actually download and use. But and also what we really like to do is just connect live. We didn't do a ton, but we did enough where it just really engages them. And it's just something kind of magic about it when you're sitting in a tent in the middle of nowhere and you're talking to a bunch of kids and they're here or wherever. They just can't believe it. My sister. Don't put me on the spot here now.
Yeah, no, I'm going to actually. So,
oh, great.
This has been wonderful. But I want to ask you, I've just enjoyed this so much, and I can ask more questions when we're together later, but just, I'm wondering, almost asking you a philosophical question about this, because a number of times you said, we chose this.
Yeah.
And damn it, it's tough. And I'm wondering, you must reflect on this for all of us, like for life. Like life is tough, right? Whether we chose this or not, I don't know, but like, can you extrapolate just a little bit on like what it is, the message that we might take for our own lives?
Yeah.
I kept thinking about that as you were speaking, so sorry for putting you on the
spot.
No,
and it's I find the most powerful moments are after I've gone through something really, really hard. And that moment when I opened with us skiing into Grise Fjord, I so remember that moment. The intensity of for so long trying to get there and everything we've gone through now. There was, and Ted, the RCMP officer, had his machine out and he just had the lights on to bring us in. And I remember thinking, you really have to go through that hell to really appreciate a lot of things. Let's face it, food is best when you're really hungry. You're really thirsty is when you want to take a drink. And it's that in life in many ways, when you just push yourself to the edge, not too far. But when you come back, you appreciate everything. And I find on these things, there's a reset button, always a reset button. Since day one, I've been doing these things to say you come back and you appreciate things a lot more, things that are important and things that aren't. And the things that aren't, screw it, you're just not as concerned about them anymore. Yeah.
Time for one more question.
The weather was obviously very good in all the film you took.
Yeah.
Did you have any weather problems, and how did you prepare for it? And what would that have done to your schedule?
Well, we had to keep moving. Occasionally, like when it's really windy, and on Eureka Sound there, it was a couple of days where we kind of didn't leave right away because the winds were so high, and we know we'd probably get frostbite. And that was actually experience kicking in, saying, let's hold off here a little bit. But most of the time, you just got to keep going. And you found that once you got moving, you were actually feeling pretty good. And the crazy part about this whole journey is you're never really warm in the tent. You're always kind of cold. The only time you're actually warm is when you're moving, when you're actually behind, hauling your sled, suddenly, okay, I'm feeling okay. So you're kind of encouraged to keep going. But the weather up there is very much, it's a desert. So you don't get storms coming in per se. What you do is get windstorms. and very, very high winds, which we did get a lot of, and you have to navigate those winds. That's pretty well it. Ground blizzards as well. And we have to be careful in the ground blizzards because, again, we were told by the locals is that's when the bears come because they know you're at your weakest, knowing that you can't see them. So that's when they're conscious of it because they smell you. They know you're there. They're just kind of holding back. So that was always in the back of our mind as well. So we didn't venture out too quick on that.
Wow. Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you. I know we could keep talking about this forever, right? It's so interesting. And like you said, like so many lessons for our lives as well, and how to deal with failure. And okay, Rabbi Feinstein is this, do you want to just come up here?
No, I just have one more question. Could you with your finger just trace the route on that excellent picture?
Well, this one here is where we're going this summertime.
Yeah, but
The previous.
Yeah.
I'll find it for you. Sure. Hold on a sec here.
There was one.
Oh yeah,
It
there
was
is
pretty
one
clear.
for sure.
It was pretty clear. One more
You
time,
bet.
One more time.
Let's go right up to the beginning. Probably. Let's find it here. Where would it be? Here we are. This one probably. Okay. So basically, Grise Fjord, most northern community in Canada, and Eureka weather station, where there's 8 people in it, and traveling over wolves on that first section. This is Eureka Sound with all the bears, and well, there's bears everywhere, frankly. But and then we went overland. We were trying to go overland as much as we could, and here tons of wolves here as well, actually, as we were going. And this is the spot where we ultimately turned around last time, because last time we were trying to go north to south. This time we went, south to north. This time we flipped it, and that's where we were, and where we had that video saying, hey, we made it, and heading back as we were. So it gives you a sense.
Thank you so much. So we're gonna wrap it up because we have to get out of the room right now. But thank you again so much. This is amazing, and we're honored to have you and your mom and your sister. Thank you so much, and good luck on your next adventure.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you all.